Microsoft 365 security isn't a single setting or portal. It's an ecosystem where identity, devices, data, collaboration, and operations reinforce each other. In this course, we'll harden that ecosystem to reduce real risk and build defensible security. We'll move from big picture security architecture into identity, threat protection, data governance, endpoint security, and collaboration security. Treat each module as a building block. Design the strategy, harden the services, validate the controls, and plan how to operate them over time. As you work through the course, make time for tenant exploration and design practice. The course is intentionally sequenced because Microsoft 365 security works as a system, not as isolated settings. We start with the threat landscape and business ecosystem, then define a zero-trust strategy to guide decisions. Identity comes early because Entra ID drives access, signals, and enforcement. From there, we harden threat surfaces, protect data, and secure devices and collaboration experiences. Finally, monitoring and governance keep controls valid as risks change. The pattern is simple. Architecture first, controls second, validation always. Use this course according to where you are. If you're newer to Microsoft 365 security, start at the beginning and do not skip architecture or identity. If you're intermediate, follow the path, but go deeper where it matches your role. If you're advanced, use the lessons as a design and validation reference, and review the first module for shared terminology. Keep a hardening notebook. After each module, ask, what risk is reduced, what might break, and how would I prove it works in my tenant? Plan time for documentation too. We begin by treating Microsoft 365 security as an ecosystem, not a set of separate tools. Identity controls who can get in. Endpoint and email protections reduce common attack paths. Collaboration and data controls protect how people share and store information. Compliance, monitoring, and governance help you prove, detect, and sustain security over time. As we move through this topic, keep one question in mind. Which risks are handled by Microsoft? Which settings are your tenant's responsibility? And which processes must your organization run consistently? Microsoft 365 security spans several connected services. Entra ID controls who can sign in, under what conditions, and with what risk. Defender XDR watches for attacks and connects alerts across identities, endpoints, email, and apps. Purview protects and governs information, while Intune enforces device compliance and configuration. Exchange, Teams, SharePoint, and OneDrive are where users actually work, so those workloads need their own hardening. The key is integration. Signals flow between services, and those signals drive stronger controls across the tenant. Hardening is best understood as a set of connected control areas, not a checklist of isolated settings. Identity controls decide who can get in. Endpoint controls decide which devices are trusted. Email and collaboration controls reduce common paths for phishing, malware, oversharing, and guest risk. Data protection keeps sensitive information labeled, encrypted, retained, or blocked from leaving. Compliance and governance prove the environment is controlled. Monitoring and operations close the loop by detecting drift, investigating incidents, and improving posture over time. Each domain reduces a different risk, but maturity comes from integration. In Microsoft 365, most security decisions begin with identity. Before a user reaches email, files, Teams, devices, admin portals, or SaaS apps, Microsoft Entra ID evaluates who they are, how they authenticated, what risk signals exist, and which policies apply. That makes identity the control plane for the environment. Strong MFA, conditional access, privileged identity management, identity protection, guest governance, and app consent controls all reduce the chance that one stolen credential becomes broad access. If identity is weak, even strong endpoint and data controls can be bypassed. Credential theft is dangerous because the attacker is not breaking in loudly. They are borrowing trust. A phishing message or token theft can lead to a valid sign-in. From there, the attacker may read mail, create rules to hide evidence, and send payment requests that look routine. They may also search SharePoint or OneDrive for sensitive files, or add OAuth permissions and forwarding for persistence. That is why email protection alone is not enough. Strong MFA, conditional access, Defender, identity protection, auditing, and least privilege must work together to make normal-looking activity suspicious when the signals are correlated. OAuth abuse is dangerous because an attacker may not need the user's password. If a user approves a deceptive app, that app receives delegated permissions and can call Microsoft Graph to reach mail, files, calendars, Teams data, or profile information. Permissions like files, read, all or offline access are especially sensitive because they can create broad, persistent access. The defense is to put control points around consent, restrict who can approve apps, require admin review for risky requests, review enterprise apps and service principles, and use app governance plus Defender for cloud apps to detect abnormal behavior. Data exfiltration in Microsoft 365 often starts with normal collaboration. A sensitive file is stored in SharePoint, shared through a link, opened by an external user, and then accessed from a device the organization does not manage. If that session allows download or sync, the data can leave protected storage very quickly. Control points matter at each step. Classify and encrypt sensitive content, restrict sharing, require compliant devices, control browser sessions, and use DLP to block copying or forwarding. The key question is not only who has access, but what they can do next. Microsoft 365 security also follows a shared responsibility model. Microsoft protects the cloud foundation, infrastructure, data centers, service availability, and platform-level defenses. But most tenant risk is shaped by choices your organization makes every day. Configuration defaults, identity policies, sharing controls, audit settings, endpoint posture, and response procedures all matter. So do licensing decisions, user habits, and third-party integrations. The goal is not simply to turn on security features. It is to operate them consistently, review them regularly, and align people, process, and technology toward reduced risk, protected data, monitored activity, and compliant operations. The real value of Microsoft 365 security is correlation. Entra ID may see a risky sign-in, while Intune reports that the device is not compliant. Purview may know the file is highly sensitive, and Defender may add threat context from email, endpoint, cloud apps, or Teams activity. Those signals feed decision engines like conditional access, DLP, and session control. The result is not one static rule. Access can be allowed, blocked, restricted, or monitored, with alerts and investigation tied back to the same incident. Security hardening should not be a random collection of settings. Start by assessing where the real risks are: compromised accounts, overused privileges, email threats, oversharing, unmanaged devices, external collaboration, and audit gaps. Then prioritize based on business impact and implementation complexity. A control is only useful if you understand who it affects, what licensing it needs, what process supports it, and how success will be measured. This structured path, assess, prioritize, design, implement, and validate, prepares you for secure score, baselines, and zero-trust decisions. Microsoft 365 security is a connected ecosystem. Identity, devices, email, collaboration, data, compliance, and governance all influence risks. Threats move across those boundaries, so tenant protection depends on architecture, configuration, licensing, operations, users, and integrations. The right hardening approach is risk-based, phased, validated, and sustainable. You now have the map. Next, we design with zero trust.